Throughout the past few days, we've been discussing a lot about the Xpresspearl ship that is currently sunken off the coast of Sri Lanka, a few nautical miles off the coast. We spoke a lot about what really happened on board. There are developments coming in almost every day on the court proceedings as well regarding this ship. But today is a day where internationally recognized to recognize the importance of our oceans. It is World Ocean Day. And of course, with the current situation in the country, it is very pertinent that we speak about the oceans that surround us, specifically the Sea of Sri Lanka, which is 8 times our landmass and is full of untapped potential for Sri Lankans, partly because we do not have quite the technology to access the potential of the Sea of Sri Lanka. It is open, like in the case of the Xpresspearl, to pollution by ships that pass by, and also in the case of fishermen, to encroachment from foreign fishermen, so on and so forth. Now, to discuss all of these matters on this very important day, World Ocean Day, we've got with us Mr. Jayantha Vijay Singha. He is the convener of Rainforest Protectors. A very good evening, Jayantha, and welcome to the show.
Very good evening to you, and thank you for News First giving us this opportunity to speak about not only oceans. Actually, the 5th of June was the World Environment Day, environment and the oceans.
Of course, this is really an important matter that we really need to not only just speak on, because we do a lot of talking here in Sri Lanka regarding important matters like the ocean, the environment, but we really need to focus on what we can do practically as a people to protect the environment, to protect the oceans. We will get back to that. But the first step in addressing an issue is recognizing what this issue is, accepting that there is an issue and recognizing what it really is. Let's start off from the oceans. During the past few days, people in Sri Lanka were saddened by the fact that many turtles, many dolphin, marine life were washing up on the shore. And the scenes were not pleasant to the eye. There were a number of turtles who are very tough creatures who throughout their life go through many adversities, and it's extremely sad to just see their carcasses washing up on the shore. We've had a number of views being expressed on what really happened here. There is no confirmation on if the incident surrounding the Xpresspearl had directly influenced these deaths, because there are carcasses of these marine life washing up on shore every time and every now and again, especially during the monsoon season. But judging by how many carcasses have washed ashore during the past year, this year, is it a massive uptick? Is it concerning?
It is massive, and it is obviously related to Xpresspearl, and that's unarguable, and there is no doubt at all. And we need to accept the fact that, and despite the fact that some of the people, including some of the professors and some so-called intellectuals, saying that the impact, the pollution of the Xpresspearl is not so significant, and it is not going to impact our marine life so much. We see entirely different situation, and unfortunately from Kosgoda towards Hikkaduwa, Matara, and then all the way up to Kalpitia, we see every single day carcasses of these dead fish and turtles and all these fish, including whales and dolphins, getting washed ashore. So obviously there is a massive impact on our ocean, and we are only seeing the beginning of it, I would say, and there will be a lot of changes in our shoreline and the ocean in time to come, especially when the pH levels and all these other chemicals getting reacted with corals and ocean marine plants, flora and fauna. There'll be there could be chain impact, chain reactions, and lot of impacts that will be seen in the coming months and years.
Well, the Xpresspearl incident is really an eye-opener, but Sri Lanka is known globally for being a massive polluter of the ocean.
Yes.
Now, of course, the Xpresspearl incident is a sudden incident. It caused a massive change in the environment around Sri Lanka, in the seas of Sri Lanka. But Sri Lankans are known to be a usual polluter of the ocean. How far has this impacted our oceans?
Well, there are certain reports that says we are the fifth biggest ocean polluter in terms of plastic pollution, but I doubt, and that is not factually proven. That's not a fact, but yes, I agree, we are as a nation a big polluter. If you look at some of these estuaries and some of these rivers that, you know, especially during monsoons, like if you go to Crow Island and if you go to Kalutara area, if you go to even Ginganga estuary and places like that, you find lot of plastic being washed and it end up in the sea. And if you look at canals in Colombo, if you look at the entire coastal zone in the Nigambu area, even Dandugangoya, and we have in fact written to Marine Environmental Protection Agency and CCD roughly about 2 weeks ago, this disaster happened, that we need to do something about the Nigambu lagoon, because there is plenty of pollution in the lagoon itself. But irrespective of all these pollution that was happening, mainly the plastic pollution, that is something that we can at a given time, if we really do something, recover or probably restore. And it's very much related to the theme of the World Environment Day this time as well, ecosystem restoration. We can do some sort of a restoration, because the impact of these will be felt slowly, and also it is recoverable. But now with the Xpresspearl, what happens is we have 1,000 odd containers of chemical and other plastic pellets and material and other toxic material, and some unclassified containers supposedly are
carrying
there.
Dangerous goods.
Dangerous, hazardous material, and all that suddenly gets burned and also getting mixed with the ocean, and there will be a lot of chemical reactions that are happening, and it could be felt suddenly and quickly. And that is the problem with that, is that it is highly irrecoverable. We can't recover it fast. So those reactions and the changes in the ocean, we already know it has been felt from the southern seas to the northern seas, and that is a huge 80-mile area, coastal area is banned now for fishing. Now that is only for fishing. Just imagine the impact on the entire ocean, on the micro, the small living beings that we can't see. We only see the ones that we can see. So I think pollution, yes, we are a polluter, but then looking at the Xpresspearl disaster, I think it would be felt for a long time, and it is so significant, and it is out of proportions.
So when it comes to the restoration of ecosystems, like you said, the theme of this year's World Environment Day, which fell on the 5th of this month, when it comes to restoring the environment, does Sri Lanka have enough expertise to embark on such a massive project, restoration of the ocean environment?
Well, I doubt. I don't think Sri Lanka has the required technology. I don't think Sri Lanka has the required expertise with proper experience of doing proper cleanups, large scale cleanups, especially oil spills and things like that. And then looking at mobilizing a team with good leadership to restore our oceans, similar endeavors of this nature, I believe that we don't have it. And I saw it was shared on Facebook and other social media widely that there was somebody from Hong Kong, an organization, I don't want to name, maybe you know, because it might be a corporate company's name, so I wouldn't name the company, but then there is an expert organization who had done it apparently. So I basically got in touch with that person. I in fact informed the Marine Environmental Protection Agency, Ministry of Environment, that there is somebody like this who has the required expertise. Probably we should consult somebody like that, because right now we have like too many chefs, too many organizations, too many people trying to lead the whole effort. I think it has to be a collective effort, but then led by somebody who has the real expertise on marine cleanups, large scale marine cleanups.
There's another problem that the people in Sri Lanka are really grappling with, especially after this Xpresspearl incident. One question that people keep on asking authorities is it safe to consume fish? Well, I know you're not representing the authorities and you can't make a definitive statement, but judging by your knowledge, if an average person comes and asks you, is it okay if I consume fish after this entire incident, what would be your response?
I have actually, personally, I have not got that expertise to tell whether fish should be consumed or not. But the experts who I have contacted and asked, have seen, put in their opinion forward. It clearly seems that right now there is no proper assessment to say that fish is safe. Especially NARA is conducting research now with, to see what impact the chemicals had on the dead carcasses, dead fish, so that they will be able to come and say publicly, now this is what we found out of the dead fish we checked, analyzed, researched, and then therefore we tell you it is safer to eat or not. But once again, I don't want people to entirely depend on our government entities, authorities as well, because sometimes what they say is entirely different from the truth. When it comes to, as you would know, our food, the famous SLS certification and all that, and how are some of the so-called institutional leaders were speaking. So I am not saying entirely to depend on them, but I believe as a as an environmentalist and as somebody who have done little bit of science, that consuming fish at this time would not be a advisable idea, especially in this particular region.
And in this particular time
that got
period.
Impacted. Sorry?
And in this particular time period.
So until all these research analysis are done and everybody says it is perfectly safe, there is no problem, and these fish died because of this reason, and now the situation is normal, the ocean is back to normal, the toxics are no more there and plastics are no more there, and then probably yes, but until such time, no.
So you're of the opinion that until the authorities come forward and give a definitive undertaking that the consumption of these fish will not cause any harm to the general public of Sri Lanka, people should be cautious when
yes,
they opt to consume fish. Of course, another issue that Sri Lankans are grappling with right now is the floods that are taking place across many parts of Sri Lanka. Good news is the rains are beginning to recede to a certain level, and the Met Department has said that the flood waters too will be receding. We will continue our discussion on this matter after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Newsline Live.
Decision to use organic fertilizer will move forward despite challenges, says President. Are the deaths of turtles linked to the Xpresspearl tragedy? Calls to probe the death of 19 turtles in the span of 10 days. Those who disseminate fake news on social media could be arrested sans a warrant. A clarification from the police. Was the bus bearing a group to quarantine ordered to return? Minister Sarath Virasekara reiterates facts.
Welcome back to Newsline Live. We are continuing our discussion with Mr. Jayanth. So we promised our viewers that we will speak about the floods that certain areas in Sri Lanka are experiencing right now. But before we get into that, there were a few questions that have come in regarding, of course, the consumption of fish in the current situation. I believe what Mr. Jayanth was saying is that until the government or the authorities come out and give a definitive statement that it's safe to consume this fish, especially after institutions like NARA conduct their investigations on the carcasses that washed ashore and give an undertaking to the general public, it is wise or advisable to be cautious when it comes to a consumption of fish. And I believe there can't be anything more said about that, because you lack the information and also the reports on the investigations that have been conducted on the current situation. But moving on to the flood situation in Sri Lanka, I can definitely attest to the fact that there were some areas, especially in the Gampaha district, that hadn't experienced floods for as long as I can remember, 20 to 15 years even maybe, and they are facing floods right now. So there is a bit of an anomaly here, and people are wondering, why now? Why are we facing floods after not having to suffer at the hands of floods every monsoon season that has come for the past 10 to 15 years?
Yes, this is very unfortunate, and I've been saying all the time since 2016 onwards, when we had severe floods coming in. This country didn't have such amount of floods, and actually victims, especially the death toll is so high when it comes to monsoon seasons now compared to what it was probably a decade ago. Now this is accumulated to the fact that irregular development has taken place in many places. Now, if you have analyzed the Southern Expressway, because the Southern Expressway, the entire Kaluganga river basin, has been blocked in certain places, and its branches and some of the streams and all that got blocked. And you know, massive fillings of paddy fields. If you have seen on the Southern Highway, the amount of paddy fields that were filled and amount of wetlands that were filled. Now, similarly on the highway to Kandy right now, we see the same situation, and people complain. People don't only complain now. If you really look at some of the news reports at the time the development was happening, initially when the land acquisition was taking place, they were complaining, saying that you should not fill up the paddy fields, and you should not cut the mountains for soil requirements, especially the soil needed for the filling of the highway. So these two accumulated. Now the mountains and the areas that were able to catch the rainwater and hold the rainwater together are no longer there. If you look at Mirigama, soil cutting is a big business, and it's a massive mafia, and all the mountains are getting flattened just for soil cutting for the highway and for the other projects. Now there is no mountains. When there is no mountains, there is no way the rainwater getting soaked up. And then you have all the rivers getting blocked and the streams getting blocked, and Mawe and all these rivers are blocked now. The streams are blocked. Now the paddy fields, you know, it's a general fact that everybody knows. Why paddy fields, wetlands and lowlands are there is because they hold the rainwater and they push it down to our groundwater table. Now you can't do that. The massive areas being filled up almost every single day, not only for the highway development but for many other things. So we have the Agrarian Act, which is one of the most powerful act which can stop all these wetland and paddy field filling, but we don't see it happening. Even in the area I live in, Pilihandala, Kasbava, Boralasgamo, all these areas, if you look at some of the wetlands, they are getting filled, the paddy fields are getting filled. So this is an accumulated issue, and because of that we see people suffering. If you really look at one thing I want to emphasize, if you look at the investment cost of it and the benefit that we are going to derive out of this, and then do a proper analysis as to how much of flood aids and how much of disaster aids and how much of resettlement and how much of compensation and how much of necessities such as the food and water and all that has to be provided by the government, that cost would be many a times more than the actual benefits we are going to get from an highway like that. I'm not against the highway. It should have been built on columns. It would have been an elevated highway, especially on the paddy fields, and it should not have been blocking the rivers. If that was built as an elevated highway, all these problems would have been solved. One other thing, the Ratnapura Highway is also going to be built. It's inaugurated probably about a month ago. Now the policymakers, politicians, the government need to be very wary of that, of the fact that Kaluganga is going to be blocked for the second time if we don't do it right. And therefore flooding of Ratnapura, Kiriyalla, all that area will be severe if this is not built as an elevated highway, especially in an area such as wetlands, lowlands.
This issue on building elevated highways, it was also highlighted recently on our news surrounding a situation in Jayala with the Central Expressway. The people there said that the officials came and said, we are going to build this highway on pillars, an elevated highway, but that was not what transpired in the subsequent days, and as a result now those areas are under floods. We've also got a message from one of our viewers saying Bopitiya Kandana fully flooded, sad situation.
And again Muthurajawala filling. Muthurajawala plays a big role. Now the Muthurajawala is being filled at a rate now. The government is planning to gazette it as a national park. If that happens, then the problem will be solved at least at this level. But it needs to be done quickly, because even as we speak now, Muthurajawala is being filled.
But the the chief policymaker regarding infrastructure in Sri Lanka, the State Minister of Infrastructure and Rural Roads, State Minister Nimal Lanza, had said that all of these floods, especially in the Gampaha district, I believe we were speaking specifically about that area, is the fault of a wildlife officer in that area who raised certain concerns with the construction of, again, the Central Expressway in that area and the environmental damage that it might pursue, and blocked the construction development for some time. It's her fault, according to the State Minister of Infrastructure.
I don't know. It's hilarious, and it's like he acts like a joker. I'm sorry to use this word, but he acts like a joker. If you really looked at the inauguration of Ratnapura Highway, Ruwanpura Highway, he said the same thing, and he repeated it yesterday also when this some of the other new highways are going to be initiated. He said the same thing, that this particular officer, actually she is not from wildlife, she is from forest department, is the one who is actually responsible. This is absurd, and clearly showcase the failure of a minister who lacks common sense, and he is the one who's blocking the Kadol Dupata, the most famous one, where one of the minister has to have used to have the first confrontation with the so-called the Devani. That particular Kadol Dupata, there is a court order, clear court order given that the soil that is dumped there should be removed, taken out. And we have news that including this particular politician, there are several players indirectly influencing this decision and blocking the soil that is put there being moved out. Now, last DDC, District Development Committee, we saw once more that this minister was having a big confrontation with Devani when she was saying that any further development in the lagoon can be approved once this particular situation is basically handled and completed, when the soil is moved out of the Kadol Dupata. Now, for that he made a huge ha-hoo at that particular meeting, and once again actually threatened her. For me, I saw it as a indirect threat. So it's basically, this is I would say very cheap behavior for a minister to be putting the blame on somebody who's absolutely innocent and have nothing to do about. But in fact, when these ministers and those who decided and those who allowed this particular investor, the project proponent, to build a highway not as an elevated highway but by filling all these paddy fields in this area.
Jayanta, we're in our final few minutes of the show. There is a group of people, of course, in Sri Lanka who think that environmentalists stand in the way of development. They believe that environmental activism is kind of a trend, something for the progressives to treat as a trend. They think it's cool, and they, of course, interpret an environmentalist as a person who stands against development. Of course, there were instances when certain issues cropped up in Sri Lanka, especially about the destruction of forests in Sri Lanka. Again, there are people who now subsequently come and say, there was a time when the destruction of forests was the biggest issue in Sri Lanka, but now that trend has died down. So environmentalists are just, they serve the times. What is your response to people who think like this?
Well, I should say a lot of people I have seen, actually, they take the example of this particular hotel in Dambulla. I can't remember what is it called. They say that at the time of this particular hotel was built, there were a lot of people who were against it, but nothing happened. Apparently, you have a beautiful hotel now, which is full of greenery and things like that. From that on, there were several environmental campaigns that people relate to and say, there were several environmental campaigns, nothing happened. If you really look at the phosphate, Eppavala phosphate deposit, and until today, whatever the development that has taken place in this country,
even the Vilpattu issue,
all these had a significant and a remarkable change and remarkable wins for the conservation just because environmentalists were shouting about it. Now we will talk about Vilpattu. What happened as a result of Vilpattu protest and Vilpattu campaign? Maavillu Gazette was put out. Maavillu is much bigger than Vilpattu itself. Now that is why you have the Maavillu protected area, because people were pushing for the northern Vilpattu protected areas to be protected. Now similarly, because of we shouted so much about the other state forests being removed, the 5 of 2001 circular being removed by the government as a policy, and the land rights were given divisional secretariats, and we saw a lot of deforestation taking place in the country. Now the president accepted it. President accepted it. The same decision was taken by the president. Now he sends a letter, he issued a letter saying that the land rights, the what do you call, the rights given to the official powers given to the divisional secretariats to issue permits and the deeds have been taken away now, because he has seen a lot of deforestation is happening because of irregular land permits being issued, deeds being issued. Now now it has been given to the district secretariat as well. We have enough cases, enough documents to show how the district secretariats have misused the government lands, state lands. But finally, just to summarize, there is significant changes in terms of policy, in terms of development, how the development has happened,
resulting as a result of environmentalists and the activism of environmentalists. Thank you very much, Jayanta, for joining us on our show. However, we have a very limited time, and I believe we covered as much ground as we could. And also on this special day, World Ocean Day, once again, as was said at the beginning of the show, I believe it's very important that we not only speak about conserving the environment, but contribute towards it in whatever little way that we can to practically implement what we speak about. Let's walk the talk. Thank you very much for watching Newsline Live. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.